Hey everybody, welcome to Safe Space Talk. My name is Renee. I'm the Inclusive Midwife on IG. This is Keisha.
I am the Hood Midwife _Quiche on Instagram.
So we are going to do our ceremonial lighting of the candles just to let everybody out there going through something or trying to come through something know that we are thinking about you, giving those good vibes. It's our little ceremonial lighting. And I'm getting better at it, I think.
Yeah.
I actually get
Record
a fire
timing.
Right. Oh, well, damn.
A little pizzazz at
it was
the
that
end.
little like So that's just for you guys, so you guys know that we are thinking about you, holding you in our thoughts and in our minds. And then we're going to take that, put it off to the side, and then we're going to jump right into everything.
So today we wanted to discuss birth stories, actually. That's something that every woman who's had a child, even if it's not a biological child of their own, will probably never forget. And the way this was brought about, it was an old coworker of ours actually sent me another podcast and said that I kind of reminded her of one of the ladies on there. And the lady was recanting her birth story, her home birth story, actually, and how it got changed into a hospital birth last minute, and just some of the traumas she encountered. So it got us thinking, hey, why not share our own birth stories from all our babies? Because we have so many of them.
Yeah.
We have all the babies. And so we wanted to actually show that even within the same mother, births can be so varied, so different.
Absolutely.
So many different factors. And there's not one correct way to birth. There's the way that you prefer it to be, but not always what will occur. So we decided we're going to go ahead and give each of us time to talk about each one of our births. I have 4 kids, and Miss Renee has 3. So this is going to be a little mini episode bundle, yes. I guess you could say.
Little bits and bits.
Yeah,
bits
little
and
bits and bundles. So it'll be basically a birth story bundle for the next few episodes. So hopefully you enjoy it, and we won't bore you too much with our transitions into motherhood repetitively.
But at the same time, there's no true labor curve. So I think it is actually helpful.
Yeah.
So you know that people who are actually doing this for a living, we still can have a hot mess of a birth.
Yes,
like it does
definitely.
Not. We are not exempt.
We're actually probably more likely to have
some hot messes
birth because we meddle a little bit too much.
Too much.
So when you know too much, you meddle too much.
And ignorance is bliss.
Yes.
Ignorance
from first pregnancy to 4th.
Yes, ignorance is bliss.
Yes.
I cannot tell you enough about it.
All right, so let's jump in. What baby are we talking about? Introduce him or her.
So my first is Xavier. I had him when I was 19 years old. He was 4 is my final answer. 2000.
He's gonna send you a text and be like, "Mom, it's actually 3."
Like, bruh, because you go from mom to bruh, just so you know. But yes, and so now he is 18 years old.
Okay, all right. So Xavier, kind of give us a little background. What was pregnancy like? Setup, support system going into this birth process.
So mine was 100% a hot mess. So the partner that I had at the time, hella abusive, just rude, not a great human being to really have a relationship with. But I was 19, and to be sure I could fix anything, I was better than Joanna Gaines in her pinnacle of her career. So I just knew this fixer-upper was going to be worth fixing. But so it's really funny, actually. By the time I was, let me think about this. By the time I conceived Xavier, I was actually at the wit's end of the relationship. And so it was one of those where it was like, please, 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 if I am meant to leave, I'm going to be pregnant. If I'm meant to stay, then I'm not going to be pregnant, but I'm not bringing a child into the situation, kind of thing.
Okay, so like a catalyst.
Exactly. And so then, of course, the pregnancy stick was positive, and so that relationship thankfully ended up ending. And I had a restraining order out on him at the time. And so whenever I did go into labor, I was in nursing school. It was my last day of clinicals. I had one clinical day that I had missed prior to for false labor. So I could not miss another one. You can only miss one. And so this was in my bachelor's program. And so I go in and they're like, look at the prego. How are you today? And I was like, my water broke this morning, but I'm fine. And my clinical was in labor and delivery. And they were like, And I was not leaving. My instructor was like, you need to go. You need to go. I was like, no, I'm not contracting. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not failing my course for a short day, which is our last day.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not doing it. Like, that's just stupid.
Bloody show be damned.
Exactly.
Here.
And I didn't
Mark
have
me
any.
present, please.
I had that, is it broken kind of thing because I was ignorant to it, A. And then it was just a gut feeling. Yeah. Like, I was like, I just feel like this isn't my normal discharge.
Yeah.
But it didn't look like my legs were crying. It wasn't all of those tailor-made signs. So went to clinical. My instructor called clinicals off very early to get me the heck up out of there.
Oh, so everybody loved you.
And yeah, they were like, oh, good job. Way to make your water break here. But ironically, I went to a different hospital because my provider was at a whole different hospital than the one I was doing my clinicals at. So, interestingly, it was the same day of the court date of the restraining order. Because why not? I'm Renee. The day I would be doing court, my water would break. So either way, we ended up going. I got into my mom's car.
How many weeks were you at this time?
30. He was due November 5th, and I had him the 29th. So I was like 38 and 4 or something like that. Yeah. So my mom comes to pick me up to help me go to court and all that stuff because she came to my town where I was at the time to support me. Got in the car, and then it actually broke like, and she just looked at me like, and I was just sitting there like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. So I'm like drenched in her car. And I was like, can we still go by McDonald's? They won't let me eat when I get there. And my mom, in true Christian fashion, because she does not swear, looked at me and said, yo, damn daddy didn't let me get my Wendy's, but whenever I was going to my last appointment when I had you. So, and off we drove to the hospital. I never got to eat.
Payback as a mother. Payback as a mother.
I was go home Wendy's that she wanted. But either way, got to the hospital and my water was broken, but I wasn't laboring yet. So I'm not sure what happened after that. I remember asking for an enema because I just thought I should have an enema because I was afraid of pooping on myself. That's everybody's biggest fear. You know, no. Baby be damned. Am I going to poop on the table? That's my fear. So I asked for an enema. They ended up letting me have the enema. My favorite midwife out of the group that I went to, because I went to a group of midwives, she happened to be on, so I was very grateful for that. And then fast forward, I literally remember being in the labor room, my mom being there, my best friend from college came in to see me, and then I remember talking to the people from the courthouse, explaining to them that I was in the hospital in labor with my water broken and that I couldn't attend. And so they called back and told me that everything was excused and continued. And then next thing I know, fluids were hanging. Then the nurse walked in and said, all right, I'm just going to put this over your face and put that over my face. Somewhere in between here, I had gotten my epidural. It was determined that it didn't work, though, because he told me it was going to be 3 or 4 contractions. And afterwards, I was like, this is not, I'm still feeling what I felt before.
In retrospect, do you feel like it worked or?
So in hindsight, it did not work. But that was whenever I learned that it was by your height. And I didn't know that before. So the guy comes in and he's like, what do you mean it's still not working? He was like, let me see. And he turns me to the side to look at the epidural to make sure that the lining is fine and that he taped it down. And then he looked at the end of the bed and he said, whoa, you're tall. And I was like, just a little bit, you know, just a little bit. And he was like, let me increase your dose because I didn't realize you were that tall. Me an extra dose and then bam, I was
That's
great.
Like a basic thing that every CRNA
that they start with. Yeah. I was like, I don't know what, girl. Well, and then so that was it. So showed up, water broke, got an enema, didn't know if I was laboring. They started hanging fluids. I'm assuming it was Pitocin. I don't know what my cervix was whenever I got there. I don't remember being told. And then I get to the epidural. After I get the epidural, if they lay me down, then the nurse comes in and says, I'm going to put this on you, puts oxygen on, no rationale as to why. And I'm sitting here like, I guess this is normal. I guess they just randomly put oxygen on this to
give it to the baby.
You know, give it to the baby. And so I'm sitting there laying there in my little blissful ignorance. And then, no lie, the most foolish thing, I woke up like I was asleep. And then I just woke up and I was just like, I tapped my mom and I was like, Mom. And she's like, what? What's wrong, babe? I said, I feel really important. And she's like, what? I said, I feel important. Like, I feel like, I don't know. I can't describe it. I just
Baby,
feel like somebody.
Episode. Go back to sleep.
I feel like somebody should be in here or something.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, okay, well, then push the call bell and tell the nurse. And so I pushed the call bell, and I'm telling you, y'all, I had Nurse Jackie from the TV series or something. And I interrupted her and the pharmacist in the closet because she straight responded to me when I pushed the call bell. They'll come over the speaker, and she said, can I help you? And I said, I don't know how to describe this, but I feel like someone should be in here. I just feel really important, or like something's going on and I don't know what it is. And she said, well, like I told you, push the call bell when you feel a lot of pressure, and hung up on me. So once again, now my mom, bless her heart, she's cussed twice this fine day. So she listens to that lady and she said, toot to the call bell. She said, then bitch, she feel pressure. And then the nursing staff walks in, and I'm like laying here on the bed, and she was like, all right, well, at least.
But see, isn't that like such, like, even in that, you can't even feel like these people are on the same team as you.
No.
On the team with you. You feel like you can be vulnerable. Like, if someone came over the loudspeaker and said they felt like they felt important, I would probably be like, what does that mean?
Exactly. What does that mean?
But I would still go investigate what that meant, because
it could mean anything.
Yeah, right. Like, I have no clue what that means. So let me go see. Let me go physically
just
assess you and look at you and see what's going on.
And of course, whenever they're 19 and they're just like, I don't know what, but I just feel like someone needs to be in here, I'm going to be in there.
Right.
So she comes in, she's rolling her eyes. And every time I tell my birth story, I say, I got the nurse that was one day away from retirement, but wasn't joyous about it. And so then she pulls the covers back, and she's like, I mean, I guess while I'm in here, I'll at least check your cervix. It's been a little bit. And she goes and she lifts the covers back, and she puts her fingers in my vagina. And she's like, come! And all of a sudden, I don't remember who came in. It could have been Ray Charles and Jimmy Hoffa. I don't know who all ran into the room, but everybody ran into the room. And they were like, all right, give us a push. And I'm like, push what? And the reason I felt important is because literally his head was right behind the lips of my vagina.
Yeah.
It didn't feel like pressure to me. Mm-hmm. And I think it was because I had that extra dosage of that medicine, so I didn't feel pressure.
A hormonal response more than anything to that transition and changeover.
But it was weird because I still don't understand to this day what it was, except I guess just intuition, because I literally was like, I just feel like someone needs to be in here. I just feel important. I felt no pain. I felt no pressure. I felt nothing. And so then they asked me to push, and I'm sitting there like, I don't know
like
what
true primate fashion.
True primate. I don't know what I was pushing.
Not pushing at all. Where everybody's trying to direct, and you're not doing anything. Well, I did what
push.
People are directing you to do.
I will say I did push. I pushed the nurse's buttons. Like, that's what I pushed. But regardless, this is the beautiful part about it, and it's still true to this day. My son was like, you know what? Bless my mom's heart. One day she's gonna get her life together. And I'm still, and he's just down there like this, like,
and your whole,
and I did not assist that boy. He found his way out at this point. I can say I really did give it a good college try. I wasn't really blowing out and all of those things, but I tried to push like I had a bowel movement. And he came out like 3 contractions later, which was amazing and surprising. But because I was laboring down and didn't know. And I didn't know it.
So now I'm wondering, like, if they gave you PIT, like, were they pushing it too hard and you're not feeling it, and the oxygen, because babies, and in retrospect, they don't tell you any of these things. So it's like, I don't know for you, but for me, the first birth feels like I was taken advantage of, highly taken advantage of.
Oh yeah, the first birth, they treated me as if I expected, or if I knew nothing, so they were accountable for nothing.
Yep. You have no expectation. You don't know.
I don't know. And in hindsight now, looking at it, I asked for pain medicine. They told me the only thing I could get was the epidural. So was it because I was more than 6 centimeters dilated by the time I asked for it? I'll never know. Mm-hmm. And then it was the epidural, and then I felt like I needed more medicine. He gave me the more medicine. Then I could feel nothing. And so then it was, baby was coming out, and I barely felt him come out.
Yeah.
So I know it was a heavy dose of the medicine. So now I'm like, well, that's where the oxygen kicked in.
Yeah.
I'm assuming I was having late.
Yeah.
And they just left it on me.
Yeah.
Like,
as it was common back in the day.
Mm-hmm. Like, and I had that mask on the whole time.
But I've been there as well, where it's like your baby looks so iffy, and you just want to do anything you can do to help you. So you're like, give me air.
Try the oxygen.
And before it was heavily like, no, you know, like now all of a sudden now it's just like, it flipped all of a sudden. Now all of a sudden now you get the gremlin if you put it on a patient.
Exactly.
But a long time ago,
back in the day,
we used to put oxygen on patients.
Yes, and leave
especially
it on
for
them.
Late decelerations.
Yep.
So
that's what I'm assuming I had, and then the midwife showed up just in time, and she was so sweet. And then they said he was out, and this was before skin to skin. I'm assuming. I don't even remember doing skin to skin. It was all a blur.
See,
So I'm assuming, like, I remember having a picture of the nurse holding him up with his weight. And he ended up being 7 pounds, 13.5 ounces, and I think it was like 21.5 inches long. And if I remember it correctly, yes. And he's still a long, lanky little thing.
So, do you feel like a lot of the pieces were missing from that physiological pitocin or oxytocin release, or do you feel it was just because trauma?
I feel like it was more than likely trauma.
Yeah.
To this day, I don't know if I had PIT.
Yeah.
I know now that to be sure I had it after birth.
Yeah.
But I didn't know what they were hanging.
Yeah. No.
And they did not tell me what they were hanging. Yeah. And I knew that whenever I got there that I wasn't in labor, but I knew I was having contractions. Yeah. So the midwife mind wants me to think that they let me hang out for a few hours and then the contractions picked up and that's why I asked for the epidural. But I don't know, that lady, Nurse Jackie could have been, that's not really her name, y'all, but Nurse Jackie could have been, just blasting that pit up and up, and then I got the epidural and that just tanked. And then
when you left that birth, do you feel like there was regrets, or did you just not even, as many American women didn't really process it, just took it for what it was? And
I did not process it. I still have not processed it. And to this day, that is as much as I remember about my birth story. Like, everything else of it was robbed. I don't remember anyone being personable. I don't remember anyone talking to me very much. The midwife came in, I think, one time, and I remember her talking to me, but I don't remember my dilation. And then she came back whenever I delivered. Mm-hmm. And the nurse ratchets that were taking care of me, it was just not personable at all. So.
And do you feel like prior to, did you go to like any birth prep or anything like that? No? Yeah. Was it recommended to you?
So it wasn't. Mm-hmm. And I thought nursing school was going to be my birth prep because I happened to be in labor and delivery. So I was like, well, to be sure, I'm going to be very knowledgeable and I'm going to be ready and I'm going to go in there. I'm going to know some things. No.
Yeah, but even what nursing school teaches you about labor and delivery is the tip of the iceberg. And that is only the tip of the medical iceberg, not the physiological. That doesn't get taught in nursing school.
And whenever I say it was like, however many, a couple of weeks maybe of it, but I was like, to be sure, we're going to know everything we need to know. If that's all they're going to make us do, that, we're going to know everything. But no, I did not. Did not.
Anything or any takeaway points from that birth that you took moving forward? Or did you just, like you said, you didn't process and you kind of just left it where it lay?
I didn't process it. However, I would say to anyone that's getting ready to give birth and it's your first, I don't care if it's your 40th, honestly. Take a notepad, or you don't even need one if you have a smartphone. Go into your notes section and truly write in the notes what they're telling you. 12:30, got to the hospital. 12:45, water broke. 6:45, I was 7 centimeters. Like,
your own documentation.
Because you just, when you want to go back, you don't remember. And so a lot of times with my patients and their births, I'll write down things on my notes and then I actually give it to them. That way, whenever they recap their birth story,
that's nice.
They actually can tell them, I got there and it was like 12:30 and I made it all the way to 6 centimeters, or I made it all the way to 9 centimeters and then got my epidural. But they don't know the chronological parts of it. Yeah. They can't remember it because their brain is saturated and flooded with hormones that aren't supposed to do anything with that except physiologically work. So that's what I usually do. I'll usually write down the times and everything. That way they're like, oh, now I can tell when I hit transition, and because this was how I felt, and so forth.
Right.
You know,
it's an extra piece to allow them to process.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you for sharing your birth story of your oldest baby,
you.
and we will be presenting several more of these. So if you liked it, be sure to join us next week's episode for my oldest baby, my oldest son. His name is Malachi, and he will be my first birth story in this episode.
Yes.
So subscribe to our channel.
Please, please, please.
Bye.
Let's set out the fire. Hold that thought. Woo.